Number one, shit. Never mind. Number one. Hello to all of you beautiful people watching today's video. Let's get that energy going. It is 3:30 a.m. in the morning. I couldn't sleep, so here we are filming today's video for none other than Surfshark. That is right, today's video is sponsored by the only sponsor we've had lately. In case you don't know, what a VPN does is it hides your IP address. It allows you to change what country the internet thinks you are from, which allows you to unlock things like, I don't know, different video options on Netflix or Disney+. It allows you to, more importantly, stay hidden. So if you're looking up very taboo topics, like maybe the topic of this video, then people don't know what you're doing, which is very important for a lot of individuals who want to remain anonymous, myself included. You guys know I was hacked recently. Had the whole channel deleted. That's why we temporarily lost our verification badge. Oh no, the imposters are going to run free. And I could lie and say if I had a VPN, then that wouldn't have happened, but I'm not going to. That happened because I'm an idiot. You can watch that video over here. But in general, a VPN is going to help you in those situations. Go to Surfshark, follow the link in our video description, enter the code PSYCH to get 83% off and 3 extra months for free, and keep yourself protected. But more importantly, don't be an idiot like me. Anyway, now that we got that sponsorship shouted out of the way, let's dive headfirst into today's video.
According to YouTube guidelines shown here, videos which intend to educate are documentary by nature and do not glorify the use of drugs. Both abide by the community safety guidelines and are eligible for monetization. The following video does not glorify the use of drugs. Instead, it attempts to be non-biased while delivering life-saving information disguised as entertainment. Thanks, YouTube.
In no particular order, I am going to list off what I believe to be the top 5 worst drugs and why. More specifically, the top 5 drugs I would never try. These aren't necessarily the 5 worst drugs, because I can actually think of way worse ones that aren't in this list. They're simply the 5 that I don't personally want to try. But everyone's going to have their own different list, because there's way more than 5 shitty drugs. Now, if I name a drug that you personally enjoy, then deal with it. That testosterone's just making me an asshole. Drugs are very unique in the sense that they are going to work extremely or just slightly different depending on the individual who's consuming them. And this goes beyond a person's perception of how they feel on it. While that does hold a lot of weight, there are actual chemical differences in regards to how some drugs are going to affect one person versus the other, which is why some people can straight up have allergic reactions and die from different drugs, versus the other person could have a great euphoric experience. That being said, now that we know that drugs affect everybody differently, and this is my own unique list of the top 5 drugs that I personally would never do, let's dive headfirst into the video. Number 1, shit. Never mind. Number 1, methamphetamine. Now, as someone who used to be prescribed Vyvanse or, Adderall, Dexedrine for his supposed ADHD symptoms, being one atom off methamphetamine, you would say, Adam, why would you never try meth? And it's mainly because a lot of people say once you go meth, you never go back. Once you feel that insanely strong pull of euphoria, it quickly shows you that nothing else in your life could ever possibly match it. And I actually felt something very similar with MDMA. When I had my first my first couple dozen MDMA experiences, I quickly thought that I would never enjoy life the same without it, which probably led to a lot of depression on my part. I don't even take MDMA anymore because it lost its magic, and you could argue if it lost its magic and it was the best thing that I thought was in my life feeling-wise, then I guess life lost its magic, which happens to a lot of people, and it's depressing, and if MDMA had such a pull for me, then I can't even imagine how strong meth would be, and it's just a road that I know if I went down, I would be fucked for life, so I would never do it because I'm afraid that it would feel too good. And I have a family, and yeah, I'm not gonna be tweaking on no meth. I'm not gonna be taking crystal, man, that's not me. Number 2, Number 2, DaChurra, also known as Jimson weed or Angel's trumpet. Damn thing goes by quite a few names, and it grows in many different areas of the world. South America, North America, I'm not sure where else, but I'm sure it does grow in other places. In fact, it's an adjunct to some ayahuasca preparations, and it is something that I think most people should definitely stay away from. Long-term effects aside, the short-term experience can be terrifying. It's classified as a deliriant drug, and this is what a lot of people, at least in the mainstream, who have been tricked by the propaganda, this is what they think psychedelics are. You see, DaChurra being a deliriant will cause you to have full-on hallucinations. It's kind of like you're in a waking dream, where I could be standing here and have a full-on conversation with someone who actually doesn't exist. It's all in my head. It's like it actually puts you in pure psychosis. Versus with LSD, if you guys have tried it, you know that it just causes visual distortions. Even at really high doses, it rarely causes full hallucinatory states. I mean, it can, but not in the same consistent way as something like a delirium would do. And long-term effects, well, just to name a few, it can cause permanent damage. It can kill you. You could overdose on it quite easily. A couple of flower heads and you might be dead. But other long-term damage includes, permanent damage to your short-term memory. I think maybe even your long-term memory. Don't quote me on that one. But this is not a drug that you want to mess with. There was a Vice documentary that was out there once, probably still is, where it talked about it as being like, they said it was like the brainwashing drug, where people would go up to others and blow it in their face, and the person would become instantly like a zombie under their mind control. And the administrator would tell them, go to the ATM machine and withdraw this money and give it to me. And they would do it because they were in a complete daze and they were under mind control. But it doesn't really work like that. I'm not saying that you can't manipulate someone when they're in that state, but I'm saying that it's not the way the Vice documentary showed it to be. Probably equally as sinister in high doses, but there are actually some people who claim they enjoy the experience, but it is extremely dangerous. I mean, you could easily get hit by a car just on that level while you're on it because, hey, maybe you don't even see the cars. Maybe you think you're in the forest, and next thing you know, smash! A deer's hitting you. A 4-ton deer with headlights. And you're fucking dead. Just all around, it sounds absolutely terrifying, and I have absolutely no interest in ever trying it. Number 3, we got good old heroin, derived from the incredible poppy plant, which gave us all of our opiate compounds. A lot of people confuse opiates with opioids. Opioids means a compound that interacts with the opioid receptors in the brain. For example, kratom, as you guys have heard me talk about ad nauseum, has some interaction on the opioid receptors through mitragyna speciosa, but it's not an opiate, it is an opioid. Opiates are specifically reserved for any kind of compound that was derived by the poppy plant. So things like, I believe, methadone, codeine, morphine, heroin, oxycodone, hydrocodone. There's a lot of compounds that we have derived from the poppy plant. Now, while I have tried some of the lesser ones, like, codeine or oxy, I would steer clear from heroin. Granted, I have tried morphine, but it was because I was at the hospital and the doctors administered it to me because I woke up during a procedure that I was supposed to be unconscious for, and I was freaking the fuck out. So like, fuck, give this guy some morphine. At least it'll shut him up. Now, the primary reason why I would never try heroin is very similar to the reason with meth. It's kind of like I'm afraid of things that are going to feel that euphoric. How our brains work is you want to receive a reward for putting forth effort. We are rewarded quite literally with euphoria, with good feelings when we accomplish a task that we've put a lot of time and energy into. In fact, the more time and energy we put into a goal, the more euphoria we are going to be gifted with. So when you got something like heroin, where all you got to do is slam that needle into a vein, and boom, you're blasted with more euphoria than you would actually ever achieve naturally. Whoa, that's dangerous, man. That is dangerous. That is fucking with your natural reward circuitry, and that is going to immediately, well, not immediately, but very quickly get you hooked, because there's nothing else in this world that, well, maybe besides meth or crack. I mean, it depends on if you prefer stimulants, but then some people combine the whole shit for a speedball, which is disgustingly dangerous on the heart. Well, there's nothing that's going to compare to those feelings, and that is why people get hooked on drugs, because they soon realize that they will never achieve that state naturally. And it's like, once you felt it once, how are you supposed to live again, knowing you'll never get there? A lot of what drives us to succeed or to want to do anything with our lives is the hedonistic chase of those good feeling rewards, whether you want to admit it or not. A lot of people wouldn't do much of anything if they didn't get some kind of a feedback loop of, oh, this feels good. Like even going to the gym, you are rewarded with visual increase in muscle mass. You feel good while you're lifting the weights. There is a feedback loop that injects you with good feelings, albeit naturally. In fact, that's your body's natural opioids. You guys have all heard of endorphins? Well, endorphins work on your body's natural opioid system. That's why things like going to the gym, feel good. It's kind of like you're getting a very slight, not heroin rush, but you know what I mean, some kind of opioid rush. I would actually compare a really intense gym high or the runner's high to something like a average dose of kratom, which is why kratom is so addictive because, well, it's very slight. It is giving you, a reward for practically nothing. I mean, granted, you got to drink some disgustingly bitter green sludge, but that's still nothing compared to like a 2-hour-long intense sweaty workout to get the same type of, boost as you can get just by drinking some sludge. You can understand why people get addicted to these compounds. And as someone who has been dealing with kratom addiction, I can only imagine how terrifying it would be to have to do something like, get clean off heroin. And again, given my past history of addiction, that's just not a road that I would ever want to travel down. So in my mind, I just would rather never try it. I mean, why take that risk? I got a family. It's not worth it. Number 4, now we get into the interesting ones. We have synthetic cannabinoids, also known as K2 or spice. Spice being kind of confusing because if you guys are in the, DMT Nexus community, you would know that spice is actually a nickname for DMT that I believe was probably extracted from that old movie Dune, where they had that quote, "The spice extends life, the spice da-da-da." It was all about space travel to acquire the spice. It was the only way to travel, which, people in the DMT thing find that hilariously ironic, the only way to travel through time. Yeah, you get the idea. But we're talking about spice in this context as in fake laboratory synthetically made THC cannabinoid derivatives. Now, negative effects beyond actual death, being able to overdose on it, are, let's read some of these disgustingly terrifying effects off. Life-threatening effects include anxiety, well, it's not really life-threatening, paranoia, brain swelling, seizures, hallucinations, aggression, heart palpitations, and chest pains. Granted, some of these effects can happen on pretty much anything, but stuff like brain swelling and seizures, there have been many reports of people entering states of psychosis and I don't know about never being the same, but I'm sure there's some out there of people never being the same after smoking synthetic cannabinoids. It is a drug that you would think, like, on paper, weed is so safe. Like, cannabis is one of the safest drugs that exists. You can't die from smoking too much of it. So you would think, like, this is in the same family, it must be safe. But no, you'd be fucking wrong. This is a drug that can cause some very serious negative side effects, mainly just its potential for long-lasting psychosis to the point where there's absolutely nothing in there that is attractive to me. I mean, you can have, on one hand, synthetic weed that can actually fucking kill you, or normal weed that is unlikely to really do much harm at all. Like, what are you going to pick? Come on, guys. And last but not least, this will come as absolutely no surprise to anybody watching. Number 5, 25I NBOMe, or any of the 25X, 25B, 25C, any of those NBOMe or NBOH actually compounds, I would absolutely never want to try. I've talked about this a lot, where that's actually what is called fake LSD, where they will trick people into thinking they have acid, but they're actually selling them NBOMe because of how cheap it is to, make and produce. You can make, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 times the amount of profit by tricking someone into thinking that they're getting sold acid when it's actually NBOMe, like depending on where you live. When I lived in New Zealand, a tab of LSD went for $40 to $50. All right, that's insane. So you can imagine how much money these guys are making when they were selling NBOMe disguised as acid. And the time that I was actually living there, NBOMe was more common to get on the street than real LSD. I don't know what it is now, but when I first arrived and my partner had already been there for some time, she already had 2 NBOMe trips under her belt accidentally. I finally convinced her group of friends to start testing their drugs, and they immediately realized, after that, and then also after me giving them some real acid, they were like, oh shit, this is quite different. There's actually a lot of people, at least during that era, who thought they had tried LSD, but they never have. Now, why I wouldn't try NBOMe, what's the big deal? Maybe it's just a slightly different trip, not as spiritual. That may be true, but it is also dangerous. It's one of those compounds that have killed people in doses where others have managed completely fine. People have died from average doses, meaning, a milligram. So 1,000 micrograms to 2,000 micrograms have been enough to cause death for some people, whereas other people have been able to take, 8,000 micrograms and been fine. It doesn't make sense. And the way that we just really don't understand how it affects the individual and the potential for danger, mainly it's increased vasoconstriction, which is terrifying. That's like when your blood vessels constrict, and this can cause it to the point where you can get tingling, or you could probably need to have a limb amputated. I've heard some horror stories of other drugs like DOM, or DOB, which causes a lot of vasoconstriction in high doses, having people actually need amputations because that's how intense it was. This is some real scary shit. So yeah, I probably, No, I would try DOM. That's like a derivative of amphetamine. It's a psychedelic amphetamine-like compound, and I will try it at some point, so that's why it hasn't made the list. But NBOMEs, just because of all the unknowns and because of, I don't know, the fact that you could die in average doses. There's no way in hell I would ever try it. And there's really no heightened reward. Like, it doesn't cause the same spiritual, metaphysical, enlightening experiences, those religious meeting God experiences as what it's mimicking. It doesn't cause that like LSD can consistently cause. But if you want a lighter psychedelic that's not as spiritually inclined, there's so many other compounds you could pick from. My mind goes to things like 2CB, even 2CI or 2CE, and beyond the 2C series, you could do tryptamines, 5-hydroxy-MET, MIPT. There are so many safer alternatives that you could take. Again, and the dose creates the experience. You could actually just take a lighter dose of LSD and have, some visuals, or a lighter dose of one of these other compounds and not get as spiritually deep on it. Or if you're one of those individuals who never get spiritually deep, then bam. Just take something that's safer. Ultimately, what it comes down to is, why would I take something that can kill me, where it's actually going to increase the negative chances of, my trip turning out bad because I'm going to be paranoid about, holy fuck, this could kill me, versus something that's safe. No one has ever died from consuming too much LSD. Like, physically wise, no one's ever died from an overdose. Just let that sink in. People have died from drinking too much coffee, from drinking too much fucking water. But no one's ever died from taking too much acid. Now, I'm not suggesting it's safer than water. The dose makes the poison, and LSD is dosed at such small quantities, meaning it is very potent, and if you took a visible amount of acid, I'm sure if you had a weak heart, it would be enough to kill you. Like, you're taking microscopic amounts here, not to say that's why it's safe, but just to say that that's why it could be dangerous in high doses. But because of, how much it costs, no one's really taken thumbprints. In fact, I'd add thumbprint to my list of things I'd never try, just because why the fuck would I want something that terrifying that could cause potential psychosis for days? Anyway, there are other drugs that I wouldn't try that aren't on this list, things I can think of off the top of my head, like crocodile, which is heroin, but with ingredients from Canadian Tire in it that can cause, your skin to turn black, turning you into an actual crocodile, or more like your fucking skin is rotting off your bones. No thanks. Or jankum. Who wants to sniff shit? No thanks. I'm sure there's other drugs that I can think of that I would never, ever try, because daily new compounds are being invented. Like, I'm not even shitting you. There are thousands upon thousands upon thousands of drugs. And I'm sure if we actually went through a list, I could come up with thousands upon thousands of drugs I would never try. But these are the top 5 most popular drugs that I would never try. I hope you guys all enjoyed this video. If you did, head on over to our sponsor. That was Surfshark. Sign up with them. Again, 83% off. Massively awesome deal. And if you guys sign up, they're more likely to sponsor more videos, which helps out the channel, because I am still stubbornly looking for that editor. So if you guys are waiting for a reply back after you sent me some samples of your work, or you did the test render for our edit, it's not too late. I haven't hired anybody yet. I got so bombarded with shit, everything got put on the back burner, which always happens. We're still getting to hiring that editor. So when you do things like, sign up to Surfshark, buy one of our hooded trip blankets, link to the shop in the description, or, join us on Patreon, that all helps me accumulate more funds so we can funnel them back into the channel. Anyway, I hope you guys all enjoyed this video. If you did, smash that like button, leave the algorithm comment. Let's get Psych Substance back doing great after our unfortunate events recently that we have, I think, recovered quickly from. And I love all you guys watching, and I will see you all in the next video. Take care, guys. Peace. Oh, and let me know below the top 5 drugs you'd never want to try. I'm actually curious if your list lines up to mine, and let me know if you disagree with me. A lot of people say this and they don't actually read the comments. I'm going to be reading these comments. Well, I might actually read all of them, because I'm very curious what you guys think and what your lists are. Anyway, take care, everybody.